It's Pyram King, and I'm really excited to bring to you another guide to the Legends of Barovia, an expanded campaign to Curse of Strahd. And in this video, we're going to be covering the third floor of Ravenloft, the Rooms of the Weeping, Strahd's private chambers, his treasure room, his study, and so much more. Really excited about it. But before I get started, a special shout out to you, the supporters. We have over 900 supporters on this epic journey, over a year and a half, putting this expanded campaign together, and this would not happen without you. Look at all these amazing individuals. This allows me to put together the detailed timestamp video guides. In addition, the PDF guides, the voice acting, the artwork, and the Foundry Adventure modules. And as you probably know, we just started editing those playtested PDF guides, releasing them to the public for free. The first several of them are already released. There's a link in the description down below where you can pick those up if you're interested in the expanded campaign to Curse of Strahd Legends of Barovia. Now, for those members, if you're interested in being a member, you get the early release playtest PDF, the tokens, the sound, voice acting sound files. In addition, I put all of that content together, including the free maps, into Foundry for you, so you don't have to do any of the work. It's a special thank you for you supporting me on this epic journey, including the links back to D&D Beyond to Curse of Strahd. Of course, you need to own Curse of Strahd for those links to work, but everything's done for you. You can just, boom, install it, and you're ready to go in Foundry. Now, a couple special acknowledgments, and you know who they are. The first is DM Andy, my partner on this epic journey through Barovia. We're going to be looking at a gorgeous battle map of the third floor of Ravenloft, the Rooms of the Weeping. A lot of high detail here. Now, this is the free public WebP version of this. However, if you want the 8K version, the night, the day, the weather effects, the grid, all of those are available in map packs to his Patreon supporters. Check those out. Highly recommend them, whether you're on Roll20, Foundry, Owlbear Rodeo, Fantasy Grounds, or just playing at home. These are gorgeous maps. Check them out. There's a link to DM Andy's Patreon down below. Now, in addition to Andy, all of this doesn't happen in Foundry if it wasn't for Blair. Not only his Scene Packer module, but him creating the V9 Plus modules to work in version 8, 9, and 10, so you're not interrupted as Foundry continues to upgrade. And he's also offers support to all our community on our Discord channel. If you're interested in creating your own adventures for Foundry, check out Blair's Patreon link in the description down below. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go into the Rooms of the Weeping. Now, before I get started, and I usually talk a little bit about this session and the maps that we're going to look at. The third floor of Ravenloft is interesting. It's not heavy combat encounters, but it's a very important floor. This is Strahd's lair, technically, not really his crypt down in the catacombs where he sleeps. This is where Strahd spent his life when he was alive before a vampire, and where he spent his undead life as a vampire. His studies here, his bedrooms here, his treasure rooms here, and there's some things in the past that remind us what happened to Strahd that's revealed on this floor. This is a floor of discovery and exploration and tying a lot of that lore all together, and it's all coming to a head here where we're coming to this realization of the tragedy that is Strahd's life. And I just imagine him here spending a lot of time introspective, a lot of hate fostering in him for the atrocious and horrible things that he's done. Now, we're going to start here, coming up the stairs here. I believe this is K21, into the K36, which is the dining hall of the Count. But on the way into the dining hall, we're at K35 the Guardians. Now, I've made some changes here and did some expansions here, obviously, for Legends of Barovia, but I want to talk about those changes. The first is, I thought in K35 rules as written, you had these two swarms of rats that kind of formed humanoid creatures in the alcoves, and then you had this encounter with these rats controlled by Strahd, and it just seemed kind of, I don't know, higgledy-piggledy thrown together. It doesn't feel gothic horror. But I appreciated that we needed to have four creatures here for the encounter. And I thought that would fit more in line with a Gothic horror trying to get in here is you'd have the door would be locked, really low DC, like a DC 10, but trying to open the door, right, will wake up as you come in the hallway. You see this gorgeous door. There's a carving, relief carving of a horse and a knight on a horse riding on it. And in the alcoves, there's these two suits of armor holding halberds. Now, if you investigate the suits of armor, there's suits of armor with halberds on them. But as soon as you try to unlock that door and open that door, the halberds and the suits of armor come to life. And we've got those right here. Got some tokens for them. You can check them out. And I thought this fit more in line with it. And I really like the concept of using the animated armor with the animated halberd. So you've got your 4 adds instead of 4 swarms of rats. You've got these animated armors and these halberds. Now, when these armors and halberds attack you, they're trying to keep you from getting into the room. If the players get into the room and shut it behind them, these creatures don't follow into the room. And if you leave this hallway and head back down up or down the stairs, I believe it's K21, they're not going to follow you. They are technically like programmed to stand here and guard this door and not let anybody in. That is their job, and that's all they're going to do. So you have this kind of hybrid animated armor with the halberd working collectively together, fighting. I think it fits really well together with a narrative. Simple, yet I think it's theatric, and there's a verisimilitude that fits within the castle of Ravenloft. So as you open up the door and you come into this room, this is K36, the dining hall. Now, I have a Theater of the Mind map for this, and I want to talk about it before we get into it. Let's bring up the Theater of the Mind map first. And one of the things about this particular room was they just had it with a cake in it, and supposedly it might have been a reception or the pre-wedding or after-wedding, and the cake's rotting, and Strahd might jump out of the cake or something happens. I just thought I understand the point of this room. The point of this room is a reminder to the players of the Sergei, Tatiana, Strahd relationship. But I thought it could be done so much more better, and also introduce Pidlwick as well. So I've rewritten this scene, and I'm going to play it out for you here, show you the script. I've got some voice acting in here and some music. So let's go through this. And afterwards, I'll talk a little bit about the thought process behind it. So the room is covered in dust and cobwebs. A large oak dining table sits in the middle of the room. The table's set with fine silver and china. A large harp in the corner begins to play. There it is. There are 5 ghosts materialize at the table enjoying a dinner together. At the head of the table, this ghost, is Lord Strahd von Zarovich, dressed in royal military uniform. To his left is a young handsome prince, his brother Sergei, and next to him is a beautiful woman who looks just like Irina. Across the table is an old woman dressed as the queen, Strahd's mother. And sitting next to the queen is the young princess, perhaps in her early teens, who is Strahd's sister. Strahd stands at the head of the table. He is smiling, and he raises a glass to his brother and the rest of the people sitting at the table. All the ghosts raise their glasses together. The ghost of the woman sitting next to Sergei leans over and kisses Sergei on the cheek. It is at this moment that you notice a devious look appear on the ghost of Strahd's face. The ghost of the queen and the young princess mouths open as if they cry out. Their dresses turn red, soaked with blood, and they both collapse to the floor and disappear. A shadowy figure appears behind Sergei. You're unable to tell who it is. A knife comes out and slits Sergei's throat. The blood pours from his neck down his tunic and across his chest. His eyes widen in horror, and the ghost disappears. The ghost of the woman begins to weep. Her hands cover her face. Strahd puts his hand on her shoulder to comfort her, but she pulls away. She stands and rushes out through the broken window. He reaches out to try to stop her, but she is gone. Strahd's face turns dark and foreboding. He throws his wine glass at the table and it shatters. He turns to leave, and the ghost of Strahd disappears. Just as Strahd begins to turn and leave, a flash of lightning strikes the room, and on the table appears a strange little man, a ghost of a man, and he begins to speak.
Oh, why have I been summoned from beyond the grave? Oh dear, oh dear. I have seen enough of this tragedy play out. I wish it not be so drawn out.
A rose appears in the little man's hand, and he begins to prance upon the table and recite a poem.
O rose, thou art sick, the invisible worm that flies in the night, in the howling storm, has found out thy bed of crimson joy, and his dark secret love does thy life destroy.
He bows to the player, and he says,
Now go to my crypt below the castle. You shall find, without much hassle, a treasure worth a plum. It's a magnificent sum. It's all I have to offer, and found in my coffer. Go be quick, like Pidlwick.
And with that, the lightning strikes again, and the ghost of Pidlwick disappears. Now let's talk a little bit about everything that just happened in this room. You have the harpsichord music playing, and then the ghost materialize, and what you're seeing is the very last meal that Strahd had with his family before his mother and his sister died, before he murdered Sergei, and before Tatiana committed suicide. The reason this room is locked away, covered in cobwebs, it is just too painful for him to come back and witness this. There's so much pain and torment in this room. The reminder of his mother and his sister being killed, the reminder of the horrific act that he had to do to become a vampire and hopefully win Tatiana's love, and knowing that it failed and Tatiana ran and committed suicide off the Overlook. And that scene of them having dinner, that happy moment, plays out in this room. Now, when the lightning strikes, Pidlwick arrives. Now, Pidlwick, this is the ghost and the spirit of Pidlwick, and Pidlwick is the gesture, the court gesture, or the fool. And I really like Pidlwick, and I think there's something here that you can do with him. I call Pidlwick the elusive NPC. He is not germane or important to the story at all. In fact, he's not even an important character in Ravenloft. However, he's an excellent character, a little spirit or ghost that can materialize to do several things for your players. Should your players get frustrated or lost or whatever, he can appear and provide clues in the terms of riddles, like he did here about his crypt below contains some kind of treasure. He can appear if the players get lost somewhere. They can appear if the players are trying to find something. Or he can just appear to leave a joke or lead them somewhere astray. I imagine Pidlwick, the spirit, is just as jovial and kind of mysterious and full of riddles and poems as he was in life. And not to cause harm, but more to cause mischief, but also to be willing to help the players. So keep them in your back pocket. If your players get lost, they get frustrated, they're looking for a clue, Pidlwick can appear and just recite some kind of poem or riddle, or lead them somewhere, or they can follow him somewhere to show them maybe something that they're trying to look for. So Pidlwick is pretty neat. The three things he says here is he's being summoned. He recites a poem that I thought I wanted Pidlwick to appear and then realize this tragedy is playing out. He says, enough of this tragedy. I don't want it to be drawn out. And he recites a poem with a rose, and I selected the poem by William Blake called Sick Love, which I felt kind of, it's a short poem, but kind of personifies a little bit about this horrific, this tragedy of love is what it is. And at the end, Pidlwick gives the players another poem about finding his crypt. He gives his name in there in the catacombs in Pidlwick's crypt. Obviously, I believe it's the Deck of Illusion in there. So there's a treasure in Pidlwick's crypt which the players can find. So this all happens in the dining hall here. By the way, I'll let you figure out who I used as my imaging here for Pidlwick. It's a famous actor that's been altered. So there's Pidlwick. As we leave the dining hall here, and I think the music is almost coming to a conclusion, I'll just bring back up the theme of Ravenloft. And we have a little fireplace going on here too. As we enter the next room, which is the study of Strahd, this room I also have a nice Theater of the Mind map here. Now this room is a room that I imagined Strahd sitting in and staring at the fire and up at this huge portrait of Tatiana and reminiscing about what he could have, what he wishes that he had. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful room full of these well-oiled books and this gorgeous painting here. We have Tatiana's painting over the fireplace. I'll read you the description here. Blazing hearth fire fills the room with rolling waves of red amber light. Candelabras adorn the walls and stand on the floor, casting light into the shadows. The walls are lined with ancient books and tombs, their leather covers well oiled and preserved and carefully used. In the center of the room is a large, low table, waxed and polished to a mere finish. 2 chairs of burgundy colored wood are padded and face the hearth. A huge painting hangs over the mantelpiece. The light illuminates the carefully rendered portrait. It is the exact likeness of Irina. There she is right there. I also have a picture, by the way, in here that you can share with the players. Here you go. There she is. Portrait of Irina over the fireplace. The chamber has several exits, including a large set of double doors to the west wall and a door to each end of the north wall and the south wall. Now, the painting above the fireplace depicts Tatiana, the beautiful young woman who Strahd had commissioned a long time ago. It's a painting's, close to 4 centuries old at this point. But the fact that it looks like Irina should resonate with the players, that if they haven't figured out, which they should by now, that Tatiana's soul is reborn in Irina. She's like almost an identical. They look very, very, very much the same. Now, if the players, and I made a change here, I thought the secret door behind the fireplace was a little difficult to find. You had to find the poker, you lift the poker, and I thought we have all this attention on the painting, make the painting a focus of attention to explore. So if the players investigate the painting, they're going to notice in the guild, on the edge of the frame, in small gold writing is the name Tatiana, so they can make that identification. But they're going to notice the painting sits kind of purely, in a very kind of precarious way off the wall. It's offset a little bit. If they pull the painting back, they're going to notice a single kind of brick protruding from the wall. If they press that brick, they're going to hear a grinding sound behind the fire, and the wall opens up, revealing the secret room behind the fireplace. Now, the fire obviously has to be extinguished before the players can go through into that secret room in there, but the secret room appears to be a treasure room. Now, there's hundreds and hundreds of books on the wall, and the tombs, the entire collection, is probably worth a huge fortune if you could move all these books and if you could find somebody willing to buy them. However, all the books in Legends of Barovia and all the books that you could find, both the common, uncommon, and rare books, not the artifacts, but the books like Legends of Lagonda, The Fall of Argynvost, Battle of Slinka Pass, Battle of Berez, Devil We Know, Lords of Barovia, all of those books that are listed for Legends of Barovia, the lore, a lot of them have clues in them, are on the bookshelf. So any player expecting the bookshelves will see these titles. So the players are looking for one of these books or need one of these books. This is where they would be. Now, alternatively, if you want to hide the tomb of Strahd, this would be one location. The other two locations that I would recommend for the tomb of Strahd one would be with Lamilla, the vampire who wants to be the queen, in her tower. Remember, we added her tower at Slinka Gates, where she's planning to overthrow Strahd and take over Barovia. She may have, you can elect to have her have the Tomb of Strahd. The only other person that would have the Tomb of Strahd would be Van Richten, and that would be either in the Wizard's Tower or in his wagon, one of those two locations, because he's trying to hunt down Strahd. So that gives a reason for Van Richten or for Lamilla to have his tomb, is because they're planning to either kill him or, in case of Lamilla, overthrow and become the queen of Barovia. If you don't hide it there, this would be the only other location where I would have the tomb of Strahd. And so we've got this really nice, beautiful Theater of the Mind map where the players can explore the study. Now, when we're moving from the study from the battle map here, that takes you into the secret door that opens up here and takes you into this room right here. And I left this pretty much rules as written, except for if the players get knocked out. I didn't make it paralyzed. I made them fall unconscious. There was some kind of gas. They fell unconscious. They still have to make that DC 18 Constitution saving throw. I didn't like the fact that the witches, for whatever reason, found the players and took them up to the room K50. I think it would be Cyrus Bellevue that would, who's the mongrel folk, who's kind of Strahd's Igor, undertaker, caretaker of the castle, if you will, would collect the sleeping bodies or bring some other creatures to help him collect the bodies to take them up to K50. So the players still get up to K50. If they all fall asleep, if they all fall unconscious, they all fail the DC 18 Constitution save, and they wake up there and they notice that all their weapons and their gear is neatly piled up. Cyrus Bellevue would put it up there. If Cyrus Bellevue was up there when the players wake, he would say, you don't belong in the master study. That's his private chambers. This is the room in which you can stay. I've put your belongings over here. Something to that effect. It also creates a really fun introduction as the players begin to wake up and get their gear. In the next room is one of the vampire spawns, which is, I believe that's Escher, that's in the next room. Now, in this room, they're going to notice the skeleton on the floor. They're going to have to figure out how to open up the second secret door, because it's a treasure. It's just not the big treasure. I mean, there's some gold pieces, there's some silver pieces, some copper pieces, but it's not the epic treasure that you would think that somebody like Strahd would have. In fact, it's a lot less than what's down with the accountant in those treasure chests. But they're going to notice the two sconces. One of the sconces has a torch. The other sconce is being held by the skeleton on the floor. And if they put the torch back in the sconce, the second door opens. Oops. And it reveals K39, the Hall of Webs. And a couple of things about the Hall of Webs. There's no spiders in it, and they don't really go into the details about the difficult terrain. So the Hall of Webs has all these spider webs in here, and I would definitely, if they don't follow the path through the middle, they get caught in these webs. If they get caught in the webs, you're going to have 1d4 plus 2 swarms of spiders come in, and I've got them invisible right here. They begin to materialize, and now they only materialize if a player gets trapped in one of the webs. Like, I can imagine the player gets trapped in the webs and they're kind of pulling on one of the webs that they fail their dexterity save or whatever they need to do, and that's a little signal and the spiders come out of the cracks and crevices and start swarming over that player. So I would have probably 1d4 plus 2 spider swarms in here if a player gets caught in the web. And that leads us to the Belfry room, 40 over here, K40. And you can hear the rain pouring outside. There's a huge vaulted ceiling, and there's a rope going way up to the top where obviously there's the big bell. This is above the chapel, so obviously this would be the church bell and within the Ravenloft castle. Now, if the players happen to pull that church bell, I have a church bell sound right here. Ready? And that's going to wake up these guys here. And you're going to have these big old nasty spiders come in here. I'm going to change the color look on that. I don't know why it's looking like that. It shouldn't be looking like that. Let me just change it to adaptive luminescence. I'll update those lights on the token. But you got these giant spiders that will be coming down the sides, down from that belfry. I think it's 4 or 5 giant spiders. So you've got a nice combat encounters kind of leading up with a small swarm of spiders, with the giant spiders only being awakened if you've yanked on that gong. And let's hear that one more time, because that's pretty cool. That would wake up some spiders. To the north, we have Strahd's treasure room, and that's K41. And this has been very frustrating. If you spend some time on Reddit, or if you talk to anybody, run the Curse of Strahd, you know, this is the instant magic instant fortress. There's no way to get inside of it. There's a little bit of arrow slits. It can be very frustrating. So I made some slight changes to this to make it better. So the room is pretty much as written. You walk into this octagonal room. There's some lights on the ceiling. Let me bring my character in here so you can see what it looks like from the player's perspective. This is me. There we are. So from the player's perspective, they're going to see this octagonal room. There's some starry lights on the ceiling kind of lightly illuminate the room. And in the center of the room, you've got this 20-foot high fortress, and there's some arrow slits in this fortress. And right in front of you is this door. I've added a door to this. The door is solid, flat door. There are no keyholes. There are no hinges on this door. It just stands there. Now, the door can only be opened up by a Strahd command. And if the players inspect the door, there's a Glyph of Warding on the door. The Glyph of Warning, if the players to try to open the door, now they can try to open the door a couple of different ways. They can try to use a crowbar or similar prying to open the door. It's a DC 24 strength check, and if they fail, whatever tool they use is going to break. So this is a adamantine door, no hinges, no keyholes, so you can't lockpick it, but you can try to pry it open. You can also try to melt it, and I let the players be creative. How would they melt this door? Would they use some kind of spell? How long would it take? Leave that up to you. Allow the players to be as creative as they want to, but trying to pry open this door, trying to melt this door, whatever they try to do, whether successful or not, will trigger the Glyph of Warning. Now, there's 2 ways you can run the Glyph of Warning that I have set up here. It's a lightning 8d8 worth of lightning damage, or half the amount on a dex save. Dex save is DC 18. That's, you know, where Strahd put that on the door. So if they inspect the door, very faintly engraved in the door is this Glyph of Warning. Now, if the glyph is set off, it will reset in 10 minutes if the door remains intact. So if they fail to open up the door, the glyph resets in 10 minutes. That gives the players 10 minutes to figure out what they're going to do, and all of a sudden that glyph kind of glows for a second and then fades out, and then it kind of signals something happened. The glyph is reset itself because the door remains there. Now, alternatively, if you don't want to do the 8d8 damage with the dex save, I've set this up as a Monk's Active Tile trigger. Let me see if I got enough hit points in there. And I'm running it on 5d8 with no save. So regardless if they do a save or not, they're going to still take damage. So you can either give them 8d8 and half much damage, or they all just take 5d8 damage. And if you want to do that, you can see right here, this entire area is one giant Monk's Tile trigger. And this is what happens. You just double click in this as the GM. It only works for the GM. Any players in here, as long that they trigger it, this is what happens. So the lightning flashes, and they all get, they take the damage here. I think it'll show up here in the thing, the chat log. Yeah, 5d8. He took 21 damage. Now, the arrow slits are 4 inches wide, 2 feet tall, and creative players who don't want to go through the creative and clever players who don't want to try to open the door, they might try to remove the treasure from other means, maybe spells like Reduction, Polymorph, Gaseous Form, Misty Step, Mage Hand. Let the players be really, really creative here. And one of the things, make sure to describe, there are arrow slits on every side of this fortress, this kind of walled 20-foot structure inside this room. They can see through those arrow slits, and they can peer to see that there's treasure in there. So they're, I think they said they're 4 inches wide and 2 feet tall. Right? So if there's some way they can get in there and pull that treasure out, or use some spells, let the players be creative. So the door is not the only option. Now, what's the treasure in here? I left the treasure pretty much rules as written, but I did remove the shield in there. If you want to use it, you can use the shield. I removed the shield of Argynvost because I added that shield in the Swamps of Berez. So there's the Argynvost shield in the Swamps of Berez, so I removed it from here. Instead, I added some additional things to rules as written. We have the Ring of Evasion, which I thought would be a really good item for the players to have. I was trying to think of items that would be, if the players get to the treasure first, they would get these items which could help them in their final fight with Strahd. So Ring of Evasion is definitely good for any failed deck saves. It works really well. The Ring of Protection gives you that little extra boost that you may need. And then they did have the 4 potions of greater healing, but I put 2 more potions in there, and that's the potion of heroism, which I think would be really good in a final conflict with Strahd, and the potion of fire resistance, because Strahd will most likely hail down some fireballs at the players. So I thought those additional magic items replacing the shield, again, you can include the shield in here and include these items if you want, including the other items that already came with it. So I added Ring of Evasion, Ring of Protection, Potion of Heroism, and Potion of Fire Resistance that are in there in the second floor. So that were some of the changes that I did to K41. And remember, this is behind a secret door. Now, it's going to be really, really hard for the players to find this because the treasure room is behind several. Think about this. There's 1 secret door, 2 secret doors. You got to get through the spiderweb things, pull the spiderwebs back, 3 secret doors, 1, 2, 3 secret doors to get to his final treasure. Really hard for them to find. There's 2 ways that you could change this. One is this last secret door, just make it a normal door behind some spider webs, right? If your players are not the kind of players that are going to be rolling for, we want to look for secret doors every single room, and it can get really tedious. Like, I'm rolling for secret doors, it just turns into a boring mechanic. You can say, hey, you notice something behind the spider webs, over on the north side of the room. They get there. It could just be a door. It doesn't have to be a secret door. Finding a secret door, I think the first one behind the portrait of Irina is the thing that opens up the door in there is pretty cool. This secret door is just hidden for no purpose. So you could just hide a regular door behind the spider web. If you want to keep secret doors, go back to the idea that I mentioned before and use the ghost of Pidlwick, who just shows up, and he maybe sees some kind of little pesky rhyme, seek the treasure, if you will, blah, 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 behind the door, behind the spider, some kind of fun little saying that has the players go, wait a second, there's the treasure. Oh, you think this is the treasure? This is all Strahd has, when you find the first treasure. But you can play with that, play with Pidlwick, have he shows up, kind of pokes fun at the players. Oh, you think this is all he has, or you haven't really done a really good job looking, or however you want to play Pidlwick. That would be a great way for him to kind of instigate the players to find the secret treasure in here. All right, as we head back through the study, we get into the Strahd's bedchamber. And I've got another Theater of the Mind map for that. So let's take a look at the Theater of the Mind map in here, and we'll read a little bit about this bed chamber. I've changed this up a little bit. There's a sweet smell of lavender in the air. There's a great arched leaded framed window along the west wall, allowing the evening light to cast a glow. Candelabras sitting on small tables light the room and cast a soft glow. A large bed sits with an ornate marbled carved headboard against the north wall. Lying amid the velvet and satin sheets and bedclothes is a young woman in a nightgown. Arched double doors lead to the south and the west. We'll cover that in a second. Now, obviously, we know who this is. You probably already know who this is. This is Gertruda. And now, if you're playing Legends of Barovia, you'll know that she is not only Mad Mary's daughter, but if you had rescued Willa in the Count's Manor, that's the alternative to Death House, Willa is Gertruda's sister. Now, Gertruda, the background with Gertruda is she's the daughter, but she was enticed to be a lady in waiting by Lady Anastasia, one of the vampire brides who brought her to the castle. So you remember Mad Mary Willa tells her mother, "Oh, well, Gertruda got a job to be a lady in waiting at the castle with Lady Anastasia." Nobody knows that Lady Anastasia is a vampire, right? And so Gertruda is innocent. She's blinded by wealth and royalty and pageantry, living in a castle, which has twisted her sense of reality. Now, consequently, she maintains this fairy tale view of life, and when faced with decisions, she'll almost always make the most simplistic one, to the point of putting herself or the players in danger. Now, she has not been yet bitten by Strahd, and you might be asking why she's here. Well, Gertruda was gifted to Strahd by Anastasia for Strahd to enjoy the first, drink or first bite of her supple young neck. Anastasia hopes to win back the favor of being the bride to be. Anastasia is fiercely jealous of the other vampire brides, so she's constantly trying to prove her love and loyalty to Strahd by bringing people like Gertruda or Helga, who is the maid, who is also the lady in waiting. So of all the vampire brides, Anastasia loves to play the pageantry, the court, the whole thing, and have the ladies in waiting, and using those to try to manipulate Strahd, to no effect, mind you. Strahd appreciates it, but he's focused on Tatiana. But Anastasia is doing whatever she can to win Strahd's affection. She wants to be the bride, she doesn't like the other brides. So she's brought Gertruda here as kind of a gift. Here, go ahead and feed off of her. She's a gift. Gertruda is, if she's forced to do something against her will, she doesn't want to leave or whatever, then you can do something theatrical by having a lightning strike. She's like, no, I don't want to leave. And she says that the lightning strikes in the room, and it puts the characters on pause, wondering if her not wanting to go or her getting anger, if there's something more to Gertruda, or maybe they're being watched, or maybe something else is going on. So those are those little subtleties in there that put the characters on their back foot a little bit, make them second guess some of their decisions. When she gets angry and doesn't want to go, the lightning strikes. Doesn't have to be a reason behind it. You're just injecting that to put your characters and your players on their back foot, second guess some of their decisions. Now, if the party does mention to her about her sister, Willa's been looking for you, she loves you dearly and she's concerned about you, this would be the one thing that you could do to persuade maybe Gertruda to be more accommodating to what you were asking her to do, right? Because she loves her sister dearly. The thing that she loves most in her world is Willa, her sister, right? She's always looked at her mother as this poor wretch that lives in the village of Barovia, never done anything with herself, and she's enamored by living in the castle and royalty, but she always has loved her sister Willa. So Willa is a way that the players could introduce that to Gertruda, to try to win her over a little bit, to follow her, to leave. But remember, she's a simpleton, she's innocent, she'll make stupid decisions. So having her with the party could be trouble for the party. She's going to yelp out loud, "Oh, what was that? Oh, we're not allowed to go down into the crypts," stuff like that, to really get the party, on edge. I have a picture of her here. Let me take a look so you guys can just see what she looks like. Here she is. So she's there, laying in her nightgown on the bed. She has no idea that Strahd's going to come in there and just drink from her, right? She's blinded to it. She doesn't want to see the reality because she is so enamored, coming from this poor village. she's so enamored being in a castle and being treated so well by Lady Anastasia. So, you know, she's gonna get herself into some big trouble if she hasn't already. Obviously, she's in big trouble. She's in Strahd's bedroom. Okay, so let's check it out. Down below here, we've got the bathroom. And again, I changed this up a little bit. Again, there's the spirit of the maid that haunts the room. But instead of having the blood kind of splatter on the ceiling and kind of the thing creature crawling across the ceiling and creating this kind of, you know, more thing type. If you've ever seen the movie The Thing with Kurt Russell, that's kind of what I imagine what that was, crawling across the ceiling, which is creepy. If you want to introduce that, it's great. I wanted to lean more into that gothic horror feeling. So as the players approach the tub, they notice a woman dressed in a nightgown floating in the tub. It's full of blood, and she's just floating there. And then they get closer, her eyes open. She kind of sits up a little bit, and she says, "I accept death before becoming undead." And she turns her hand over and she raises her hand, and the players notice that her wrists are slit and the tub is full of blood. If the players try to touch her, or if she tries to touch a player, she disappears and the blood disappears. So it's just another gothic horror sense. Here is somebody who wasn't willing to turn undead, and so she commits suicide. This is a maid from a long time ago, commits suicide before she can be turned by Strahd. So I imagine, you know, she fled into the bathroom saying, "Oh, I'll be right back, Lord Strahd," and she goes in there and slits her wrist in the tub, and that's the blood and everything that you would see in the tub. Now, one of the things in K44, which is the closet, which is rules as written, one thing that I add is if the players inspect the floor, they're going to see on the floor a very, very faded circle painted on the floor. And this is a teleportation circle. This is the teleportation spot where Strahd teleports to Vasili's manor in Vlaki. And if you've seen the streets of Vlaki, that guide, Vasili's manor's there. There's a secret room next to the library where Vasili has his teleportation circle. Vasili obviously is Strahd, where he can teleport to and from Ravenloft. So this is the way he shows up in Vasili's manor as Vasili. If the players inspect the clothes on the wall, not only will you see Strahd's garments, but they will see some garments that may be familiar with them. If they haven't figured out it's Vasili, they'll see, this clothes seem familiar. This would be a way, if the players haven't figured out by now, could be a shocking reveal that Strahd is Vasili. So I wanted to put this in here for two things. They'll see that there's a teleportation circle. They might be able to figure it out. If the players can figure it out or have some ability to teleport, they could possibly use this to teleport into Vasili's manor. And if they inspect the clothes again, they'll come to that conclusion that Strahd is Vasili. And putting those two together, you've got two clues. Definitely show you that Strahd would be Vasili. Next up, if the players head back into this room, we've got that secret door that takes you through Strahd's bedroom into the hall here of the bones. Now, I left Hall of the Heroes. I've left this pretty much the same, except for I didn't think it should be Strahd's spirits. I think it's the spirits of the ancient heroes who are actually mentioned in here. There's all these statues of ancient heroes. What it was cool is that it says that every time the lightning strikes, the expression on the statue of the hero's face changed. So I've got lightning here. Lightning strikes, and all of a sudden the expressions on all the statues change. Now the statues are imbued with the spirits of those ancient heroes, which are grieving over the darkness of befallen Barovia. The spirits will answer one question if addressed directly. Spirits' answers will always be short and vague, and there's a 20% chance that spirits' answer is just meaningless. They'll just say something vague and allow the players to try to dig and pick at it. But that's what happens. So every time the lightning strikes, the faces of those figures change there. Again, this area goes down to the apartment landing right next to the maid's quarters in the court of the Count in there. So if you're coming up from the court of the Count, the maid's quarter where Helga was, you'd be coming up these stairs here into the hall here. And at the end of the hall is a door that goes into the into the giant room where you've got the Heart of Sorrow at the top, the tower of the Heart of Sorrow, and then it comes down into Strahd's study that we mentioned. Now, the one other area here that is important is the parapets, and they're important because the parapets are the walls here that overlook down below, but if they stand outside too long, they run into Strahd's animated armor, and I have the animated armor here. Now, instead of Strahd's animated armor just kind of roaming along here, I added this feature, and I'm creating a guide for tactics for Strahd and strategies for Strahd, which will be released shortly, and there'll be a video guide to that. But if you wanted to, and I'm suggesting to run Strahd stats, rules is written, right? You don't need to buff his stats if you're playing up to level 10. If you're going to take your players into Ravenloft above level 10, like they're going to be level 12, 13, 14, 15, you definitely want to buff his stats, and then I would recommend looking at that CR27, the Devil Strahd that's available on Drive-Thru RPG, if you're going to be playing with a larger party or high-level party for the end game. Otherwise, rules is written, he's really powerful. If you wanted to buff Strahd, two things you could do. He can call his armor. This is Strahd's suit of armor. He can call it to his aid anytime, right? And the armor will show up and fight along Strahd. Or Strahd can just, the armor shows up and he dons the armor. Now, if he dons the armor, Strahd's AC goes up to 21. He has damage resistance to cold, fire, damage immunity, lightning, and poison. All the same things that are in this armor, right? He gets all the benefits of the armor, including he gets the feature of the Shocking Bolt as an action. So he can use the Shocking Bolt as an action if he wants. The armor's hit points, let's say just 100 hit points, become 100 temporary hit points for Strahd. So if he puts on the armor, he gets the armor's AC, which is 21, all the benefits of the armor, which is Strahd's armor, plus the shocking attack, and 100 temporary hit points. As soon as those temporary hit points are taken out, right, of the armor is useless at that point. All the benefits of the armor, the AC goes away, the damage resistant goes away, the shocking bolt, all the benefits of the armor is destroyed, just as if you would destroy the armor on its own. So I will be including some more details about that. So if the armor is still around, if the players haven't destroyed it, it can come to Strahd's aid, or Strahd can don it and get the benefits of the armor plus that 100 temporary hit points and boost them up a little bit if you wanted to do that. I would rather do that, in my opinion, rather do that than touch his own stats and touch his own hit points or AC. Just have him put the armor on and get all the benefits of the armor. It's a really simple way of boosting Strahd temporarily, and it fits more within the veil of similitude, meaning that he puts on the armor, he gets the benefits of the armor, right? The armor gets destroyed, or he takes it off and he's back to normal rules as written Strahd. But we'll cover that in more details. So that is it for the Rooms of the Weeping. We've covered the study, we've covered the dining hall and the ghost story there, Gertruda there, waiting to be fed on, the gift of Lady Anastasia, the treasure room and how we made some changes to the treasure room, and some ideas to deal with the armor. I hope you enjoy the Rooms of the Weeping and the Legends of Barovia campaign. Stay tuned to the next guide, and until next time, may all your rolls be critically successful.